So we're going to wrap up the afternoon on a quest with some interactive tips and tricks. Earlier on, Dale was being a little cruel to the Mayan civilization, you noticed. He was saying they're all passed away and that they're causing the end of the world in December, I think. But, you know, they were actually fairly sophisticated. This is today's date in the Mayan calendar. We're on the second, actually the third day, because they start counting at zero. One of the earliest civilizations to even come up with the idea of zero well before the Europeans did. So their maths was pretty sophisticated. So the third day of a 20-day week, that's their kind of thing there. They worked in base 20, so I assume they ran around in barefoot so that they could count properly. Anyway, so we're going on a quest with the Mayans, but why are we doing that? I mean, really, why do we have a lizard dressed up as... So that's always a good start. So why do we have a lizard dressed up as Indiana Jones? So the issue there is, do we have a wire? Is that in the history of our splash screen, starting around 2006, the lizards started appearing in our splash screens. And why that actually happened, nobody really knows. And so our quest is to find the lizard's name and his route. So he went on an adventure, he's going on an adventure, and we're going to help him build some map data as he goes to find out what his name and his routes are on this adventure. So he started trip planning and looking for his route from Vancouver to his destination, and he wanted to build a great circle. And since there isn't a great circle or orthodrome transformer in FME, what should he do? Give up and use ArcGIS instead? Create a great circle custom transformer on his own? Write something in TCL? Check out the FME store or ask a friend if they'd create something for him. D. We've got a couple of Ds there. That's correct. You could go to the FME store. You've got to hold your hand up and keep it up so that our Safe Software Rapid Response team can service your table there. Check out the FME store. And there's great prizes going here as well, remember. So try and get in. And check out the FME store. And the main thing about the store is, there are some very useful custom transformers up there. But remember, those custom transformers can be used as ideas for your own work. So if there's something that doesn't quite fit but looks similar to what you want to do, like I didn't really want an orthodrome, I wanted a loxydrome, which is some other related bearing kind of great circle-like thing, then you might download the orthodrome replace transformer and have a look how you might morph that into a loxydrome thing. So our lizard went off, and he took some photographs of some areas of interest that he thought might represent where his roots were in this place that he's investigating. And he wants to load the GeoDatabase images as attachments into his file GeoDatabase. This is all new in FME 2012. So should he create an ESRI GeoDatabase, give up and buy ArcGIS instead, use an FME template, check out FMEpedia, use FME to reference an XML workspace template, or use XML template a transformer. So any guesses there? Have we got any guesses there on how he should create that ESRI GeoDatabase? Whoa, there's lots of muttering going on. I think you should just throw some sporks out there. This is revision, ladies and gentlemen. We've been through this already today, so you should know what the answer is. The answer is D. Could you reference an XML workspace template and then create a nice, clean GeoDatabase from scratch with all the relationships, domains, subtypes, and so on, okay? So to create that attachment workspace that loads those attachments, what configuration steps do we need to do here to get that going? Create the tables using ArcGIS or XML template, load the point of interest table, load the destination table, set relationships, or load the relationship table. Which of or some of those steps should we need to do in our workspace? By the way, there are consolation prizes, I think, and they're very good. They're these stickers, and they are actually very valuable, because you'll notice that Don and Dale have been using an Apple. Well, these stickers will upgrade your Dell laptop to be better than an Apple. So they are worth going for. C and D. Okay, well, it's actually all of the above. Making these things, if I can find the right workspace that I've got here somewhere. Yeah, this one here. Is messy and a little tricky in FME, but it is rote. That's not what I want. It is a rote task. So what you have to do when you create relationship tables in general, and attachments is kind of in the same category as that. We're reading in the points of interest. We're reading the directory paths that contain the imagery in this case. And then you do have to create a couple of weird attributes to initialize these relationship tables in when FME writes to the geodatabase. And then we can write out the points of interest up here. We can write out the attachments, which in this case are the images here. And then using our friend, the feature merger, we can join together those two streams of data and write out the attachments table. So it is a little messy to do in FME, but it is rote. So when you go onto FMEpedia and you download this example, you'll be able to apply it very quickly to your own particular application. And it's pretty much the same for any kind of relationship. The steps are more or less the same. So that's a good thing here. In this case, this would be a good example of when it's not a great idea to use the inline query. The feature merger will work fine here. You don't have hundreds of different data sets that you're merging together, and you're only doing it once to each data set, so the feature merger will work fine. But in other places, you might find that the inline query would be a good option. Okay. We've already seen the photo sharing. So Lizard, as he's strolling around in the jungle here and along the coast, posting up his images, and he's using the notification services to send up his geolocated photos. So we don't need to chase that one too much, but that's what he can do with his holiday snaps as he goes. And then he needs to do a bit more trip planning here. So he wants to gather together a whole bunch of data. He's found some boundary settlements, road networks, and hydrology. He's going to clean that up and load that into the same file GeoDatabase he's just put his attachments into. And then he's out there found some DEM imagery and stuff, and we'll try and help a 3D PDF in a moment. So in that process of gathering together all the data and loading it into the file GeoDatabase, he doesn't have ArcGIS installed, and he wants to know if he can still load the data on his laptop as he's walking around. So should he find some treasure and buy ArcGIS, use the data interoperability extension in ESRI, use the file GeoDatabase API writer, XML Workspace template, or should he just wait and install FME 2013 when it comes out? C, lots of C's. So Jonathan had it up there. First, very quick, rapid response by Jonathan, but probably a couple of the sporks need to be thrown out for people who aren't holding their hands up. Okay. And I think we do have some family packs of sporks, don't we, Dale, still to give away? So a special, yes, 4-color packs. So still the Lizard is planning his trip, and he's gathering together the data. And he ran the gather data workspace, but now he can't find the output file GeoDatabase. So what's the best thing to do? Wait and ask Don and Dale. Right-click open containing folder. Use Windows search. Contact safe support. Or just use Windows Explorer and start browsing. B. That's a good option there. I wonder if I've got something. Yep. So it's taken us, at the request of one of our users in Nanaimo, a long time ago, too long ago to mention, why don't we just do open containing folder? So that will pop that open, and you can get your results there. So that's a good thing. Actually, also, we learned the other day that if you happen to lose your workspace, you can also open containing folder up there. So if you want to open the folder containing all your workspaces, you can do that as well. So there's a super handy thing for you to play around with. So out on the coast, turns on his GPS tracking unit. He's getting back some XML here. Yeah, so this is pretty exciting stuff. And the XML GPS tracks are coming back in little tags. They've got a lat long embedded in the tag itself, an elevation, and a time in a complex Mayan date format. And so the lizard wants to know how he can best interpret this XML document. And as he's reading that, should he use the XML templater transformer, use XML reader with XF maps, GML reader, XML reader with flatten, or a text line file reader, and loads of other transformers, breaking Don's 15 transformer limit. B. Well, who said B and who said D? D? And was there a B? D, yeah, okay. So you got to keep your hand up there. So gentleman in front here. Yeah, so we've only just done that. So we should have really been giving about all the sporks there, because Don explained that very clearly how we should have done this. So yeah, if you're reading an XML document, and in this case here I have an XML document, it's just got the one set of tags, which are these ones here. But then at the bottom, some big binary blob of data that we don't understand, and so we probably want to ignore it and not read that into our workspace as part of the data flow. So we can do that as well in the workspace. So when we configure that workspace elements to match, we can open that little editor. In this case here, we've just got the TRKPT entry, and then elements to exclude the FP data, which is that binary blob, so we can just enter that, one or more of those lines to exclude tags that we don't want. And then the flatten options, enable flattening, will just take any of the other tags or pieces that are sitting within the tag that we're interested in and make those attributes on the feature. And so we now have some nice attributes that we can work with. And this is an interesting little workspace. Often the smaller workspaces are more interesting. So with converting those GPS elements into 3D points, taking the attributes that we've flattened from our XML tag, we're trying to interpret this complex Mayan date here. We do have a date formatter. Some of you have probably tried to use that. I'm sure Heidi has in her GPS stuff. And sometimes that won't interpret a date correctly for you, so then you have to do some grunt work and split it out manually. So in this case here, we're using the attribute splitter to do that. We're breaking it out bit by bit, 4 parts for the year there, the dashed 1S, 2S for the next piece of the date, which is the month, and so on through that, and creating up a list of attributes that represent all those individual pieces of the date. And then what I want to do is set a measure on each of those points that represents the time. So rather than having the time as an attribute, I want to put a measure, because later on when I join that string together, I want the time stamp on each vertex of the line. And so here we're using the advanced parameter tools that were introduced earlier on to string together those pieces of the list to make up the piece of the attribute I want to work with, and that's getting set as a measure down here. So let's just run that while we're working. And then the point connector here is stringing all the GPS points together for each of the different GPS tracks that the lizard has made around on his explorations there. So those are those GPS tracks, and if I click on one of those, we can see all the attributes we've pulled out from the XML. And here is that track line. If we click through here, we can see as it's traced through. But we've added there the time on each vertex of that as a measure, which we could load into a geodatabase or something else as a measure on a geodatabase entity. He's down in an exotic place, so he wanted to take some time and have a bit of a holiday, chase some tail. On the road network, something we don't really promote greatly in FME, and we probably will be soon, is some of the linear referencing and network tools that we've been adding over the years. A lot of this work has been done for NRCan, who maintain the National Hydrographic Network. And in this case here, what the lizard wants to do is to make sure he can get from all of his point of interests to the others on the road network. So we're validating the road network using the network topology calculator. And what that does is you throw in a network into the topology calculator, and then everything that is connected gets a common ID. And then in this case, I'm just coloring those different pieces. So we've got some green up here, patches of blue. And so those pieces of the road network are disconnected from the rest. Maybe they're little independent little Mayan communities isolated from, that no civilized person has ever come across and met. Maybe they're more civilized than us. Anyway, so the lizard has determined that the road network is pretty consistent. That's the red patch here. That means that they're all consistently joined together, and so that we can, or he can trace his route from point of interest to point of interest. And there we have the network road workspace. So he's working that. He opened the workspace and he pressed F11. So what happened? He sent Don and Dale a notification with an image of the workspace with the new notification services, opened an overview window, zoomed into a transformer, maximized the workbench canvas, or he bought an F11, maybe it's an F35 on eBay. See, it's D. Okay, yes. Yeah. We've got to give this stuff away. We don't want to be carrying it home. We've got a long way to go. So yeah, we're always trying to add more useful shortcuts. So F11, if you're short on real estate when you're making big workspaces, gives you that. Dale said that the other day, Shift F11 does the same thing, but also keeps the menu so that you can do menu-y type things. F11 will take you back again. Of course, you can always lift up these panels if you've got multiple screens and move them around. But sometimes getting real estate for working on a large workspace is tricky. What was the other one? Dale was zooming in. So if you zoomed in there, the intuitive shortcut key, Shift 0, Control 0. Yeah, right. Control 0 takes us out, zooms us out somewhere. Okay? So, lots of shortcut keys that we're trying to keep going, and we'll try and document better. So, confirming that he can get from a road to a point of interest without too much jungle thrashing around. So Ted has already mentioned how useful that neighbor finder transformer is. It is useful, kind of swaps attributes between different data sets. In this case, we're comparing the point of interest with the road, getting the distance from that point to the road, getting the name of the road segment that is near that point of interest. So it does lots of things. The neighbor finder is a very powerful transformer. So to find when he's building that workspace for using the neighbor finder, and he's in there transformer quick add. So what does he need to type in as he's using quick add? Does he use neighbor finder for the Queen's English, neighbor finder, NF? Depends on what side of the Atlantic or border, or depends on your language settings. Which of those can he type in? C, we've got a C. There's a C over there, that's nearly correct, so probably deserves a sticker. Okay, so it's A, B, and C. So yeah, you can type in NF. So all the transformer names are title case, and so if you use the uppercase parts of the name, then it'll pull up transformers that have those uppercase characters in there. Once you really, if you really are a speed typer and you know all the transformer names. And also we do have the English and the US spellings within these things. Now this all originated from some work we were doing in 2012 where actually we've been consolidating transformers and reducing the number of transformers. So when we see that there's common functionality in FME, or in the case of the advanced parameters, we were deprecating some existing transformers because they kind of blended into others. We were getting rid of transformers, and the attribute setter transformer is an example. So that was a transformer that used to be in FME, but with the new advanced parameter tools became basically redundant, and so we got rid of it. But then, of course, we had people testing FME 2012. Somebody's typing in attribute setter, nothing's coming up. They think the whole system is broken and it's not working. So we've added aliases to the advanced parameter selection there. Sorry, not that, the quick add. And you can also see right from there the custom transformers available on the web. So sometimes you'll type in something and you'll get a slightly different transformer in FME 2012, and that means that other transformer that you used to use has been deprecated and bundled in to something else. And I think the other one was the hull replacer. We used to have a concave hull replacer, and that got all merged together once we added the concave hulls and stuff. So lots of aliasing in FME 2012. At the moment, you can't add your own aliases. Yeah.
VI guy, are you? What? You use VI? We had Dan Eisner, what's the same thing. But yeah, we're thinking about that.
Yeah. So more on that kind of networking side, the lizard can find out he's on the coast down here at a point of interest, and he's heard that there's some excitement over at Caracol, so he can find the shortest path using the shortest path finder along that route. And in this case, it's just using the length as the control, but you can use an attribute and add some weights to do weighted factors. So we could use the road classification. Is it a dirt road or highway or whatever, if they have highways down here, I suppose. So he goes to Caracol, and he's going to build a 3D model of the area of interest where he thinks he's going to find his name and his roots. And he builds an area of interest boundary, clips out a little bit here. The DEM model that he could get off the internet was pretty low grade, but he did talk to some archaeologists who are working in that area and stole some LiDAR data. Well, he didn't steal it, he gave it to them. Actually, he had a hard time getting that data because when he requested it, they asked him if he was a tomb robber, because archaeologists are one of the biggest users of LiDAR data that reflects out and shows potential sites for excavations very well, especially through thick forested and jungle areas. So the lizard had to convince them that, in fact, he was really just up here giving a silly presentation. But anyway, so we can use the LiDAR in that area to maybe get a better tin surface and a more higher resolution surface in there, get some satellite imagery, get a 3D model of the Mayan temple where he thinks his name might be written, and build a model from that. So that's the LiDAR flyover data. You can see that it picks out some of the ruins quite well from within the jungle area. Using that LiDAR data, he's getting multiple returns. He's not gone cross-eyed, and he needs to pick the correct classification. So which transformer should he use? The test filter, the point cloud splitter, the cloud thinner, the cloud ground surface acquirer that Dimitri loves, or the coercer. B or D? I couldn't hear that. Delta. Delta is not in FME, but does certainly deserve a couple of stickers, upgrade stickers. Over there, yeah, sticker. What was the other one? B. It is B. So, yep, we've got a couple actually in the workspace that we're using for this stuff. Just zoom in there a little bit. So you can split out your LiDAR data by classification returns and stuff. This was pretty high grade LiDAR. So we're pulling out the last return, and then it's got a good ground classification. So the point cloud splitter can be used also to get an attribute back with the different classifications on that you can filter out on. So some pretty good tools in FME for manipulating your point cloud data. And so there's got a 3D model of his data. Not going to run that to see it created. It came out as a 3D PDF. We saw how we can create 3D PDFs before. It's got different layers in it that we can fool around with. We can rotate it. The imagery does constrain it a little bit, so it's not that high grade. There is, in the Mayan culture, there is 7 levels of the underworld. So this is the schism between the LiDAR and the DEM, where those 7 levels of the underworld emerge from underneath there. Anyway, there's the temple, which is probably a bit offset from its real location, but maybe that's part of the schism thingy that's going on. So there's the location of our lizard's roots. So on the temple there, he's able to discover his birthday, which is 12/19/12/17/8, which is more or less the date of FME 2006 release. But his name, nobody can interpret these hieroglyphics. So I guess we'll just have to wait until next year and find part 2. Yeah. If there is a next year, yeah. Well, see, some of us have to be more optimistic, I guess. So where did the lizard go on his quests? Got any takers for the quest destination? Probably 1 T-shirt left and a few sporks to throw around. B. Who said E? We got a couple of E's. Sporks going out goes to E. I'm glad nobody said C, which is the same place up until 1980 odd. So yeah, that's where the lizard went on his quest along the coast there, second large barrier reef outside Australia. Okay, so that's the end of our quest here. Our adventure is just beginning, is that right? Thanks to the people who did provide that data for the adventure there, and especially the LiDAR data.
So I think that's it. Well, thanks very much. What a lot of people don't know is that SAFE spent a pile of money to send Mark on that trip. And he went everywhere on SAFE's dime, so I think we got every penny's worth out of it.
We did, absolutely.
So money well spent. Where are you going next year, Mark?
I don't know.
Okay.
Depends what the theme is.
Okay.
Maybe
Anyway.
Italy if you're going to do another cooking show.